Hello, Dr. Jiang. Thank you for watching my answers for the postdoc positions interview questions. So I'll try to repeat a question and then provide an answer for each of them. The first question is about research and project management and multi-tasking. So during my PhD, I've definitely managed multiple research projects simultaneously. And most of the time, the PhD, I would say, requires some type of multitasking, whether it is between courses, because we had 9 required grad level courses, which is a lot compared to a lot of PhD program. And we do have a bar of needing us to achieve more than 80% for passing each course. And in addition, we did 2 communication requirements, which is like the qualification exam, thesis proposal defense, and I also did 2 internships during the summer of 2023 and 2024. So meanwhile, I have published 18 papers for research projects, so a lot of multitasking has been required. So since this question is about multiple research projects simultaneously, I have 3 times that stand out in my mind. So the first time was actually before I joined my PhD. I was working on the program of Master of Education Technology and Applied Learning Science at CMU. At that time, I really want to apply for the PhD program, since I have started my first research project with my academic advisor, Caroline Rose, and also under your mentorship. That was a project that required a lot of hands-on coding of students writing RST data. So because I was taking a lot of courses at that time, for 1 year master program, metals was a very intense program. I had to balance a lot between conflicting needs for courses and research project that I was leading. So we leveraged the time before the course start, like early in the morning or later at night, to try to balance the workload. And I remember not long after, I started to simultaneously lead another research project under the guidance of Professor Vincent Levin and Ken Holstein. So that was a time of managing multiple research projects and also the master programs requirements. The 2 projects were at different stages. The RST project required me to do more hands-on work, such as coding the data, writing the second author paper for NACO, or meeting with the stakeholder at turning in, which I try to actively help with in my capacity. While the independent research project required more of my own independent critical thinking, brainstorming of research questions, and moving it forward, coordinating with the mentors and professors. And I want to say at the same time, because I was taking a course of personalized online learning, and which require us to create an online intelligent tutoring systems for any type of learning task. So immediately jump into my mind was in my research I had with the RST project, I had run into a difficulty, which is the RST is sometimes very challenging for novice coder to understand because many of the relationship between sentences are very similar. So I try to like persuade my teammates in the courses to achieve an intelligent tutoring system for the RST project. Although it was not required by the research project, I think it is a good synergy between my course project and my research project to try to leverage what I learned in the course to apply it to solve a real life problem in research. It also requires me to coordinate with my teammates because they have no idea what RST is, and to kind of motivate them and give them the necessary knowledge about what we need to make this tutor workable. And we have iterated into from low-fi, mid-fi, high-fi prototypes. Um, Other examples of multitasking research project including balancing side project of interest, which was at that time I was really interested in the fate topic, which is a really topic in the HCI community that draws a lot of attentions. But also my grant required me to do a randomized control experiment. So this two has like conflicting needs for my time in the PhD, and I need to multitask them And at that time, the way that I tried to do it was I tried to find really motivated research interns whose goals are aligned with the research. Maybe they are interested in going to grad school or interested in getting more portfolio. Another time of multitasking for research project is when I was during my internship at Autodesk, where I was leading a LLM-based creativity application. My thesis proposal, which was delayed to the same summer, required me to deliver it and prepare for it. So I had to compromise by at the end delivering it the thesis proposal remotely instead of in person. But despite this overlap, between internship and the proposal, I have successfully stayed on schedule and met both commitments. To manage multiple research projects, I usually use various tools such as shared spreadsheet, Trello, and calendar task to track different milestones and deadlines. And I also think it's very helpful to break down this bigger project into smaller to-do items that I can just easily see on my computer screen. Um, I'll go to the next question, which is about grant writing and vision. So I think to stand out in a competitive funding landscape, because I've done in my PhD research in HCI and AI Ad, I would focus on bringing together the technical innovation and human-centered design, which is more of my expertise. I think one of my strengths is that I had first-hand experience with varied HCI methodology in the papers and studies I led, including classroom studies in K-12 setting, human-centered design, mixed method analysis, including qualitative analysis like semantic analysis, affinity diagramming, and quantitative such as like statistical modeling, data mining. And I would highlight the comprehensive methods toolkits that we can leverage in the grant. And since in my dissertation at the end, I've also had first-hand experience leading a project of multimodal learning analytics, which is a really new and emerging technology that we try to capture logs in different sources to capture the teaching and learning environments. And my goal would be to design AI systems that empower people rather than replace them, to really involve stakeholders in the loop of designing the technology using a mix of different methodology in HCI and data analysis and prototyping. So the third question is about academic writing and publications. So I have in the section of AI Ad and HCI, I've tried to balance my approach to and submit it to journals and conferences in both areas. In the AI Ad conference domains, I've submitted to EDM, AI Ad, ACTEL, and JCal. In the more HCI settings, I've submitted to CSCW and CHI conferences. So indeed, these different conferences and journals have slightly different taste and preferences in my eyes. For example, the EDM conference, I've submitted a data simulation and modeling work on sim pairing, where we simulated the feasibility of pairing policy based on historical ITS data. There in the paper, I will spend a lot of time and energy describing the technical details, how we did it, the parameter setting, and the quantitative results. For the more CSCW and CHI conferences audience, I submitted my first, for example, I submitted my first crowdsourcing and supercomputing paper there, and I tried to take more of a lens of human-AI collaboration, implication for the design space, and argue for more HCI contribution. For as another example for JCal, I try to make sure the rigor of the experiment and statistical analysis methods were sound, and that the paper connect to like CSCL or computer-assisted learning literature. As a specific example, in the CHI 2023 paper, which is my first classroom study paper, I had to think carefully how much emphasis to place on the design opportunity for future tools, and also how much visual to include, because visual is also sometimes important for the CHI community, how to make them appealing to the CHI audience, and balance how much learning science content versus HCI and design content and framing would be most welcomed. And a lot of this required mentors' feedback and multiple rounds of iteration across different time zones, especially near deadlines. The four questions is mentorship and collaboration. How would I mentor grad student, undergrad students? So I really like this question. This is a great question, and I like the framing of supporting and challenging them. I believe that students learn more effectively if they are actively engaged, supported by actionable feedback, and encouraged to collaborate. So throughout my PhD, I have mentored 25 students, 14 master students, 11 undergrad students, and 9 of them has contributed to peer-reviewed publications. And I recognize that undergrad and grad students, they have different qualifications and motivations. But first and foremost thing I try to do with them is to understand their internal motivation to join the research project, because I really believe that good mentorship has to be personal to the student's need. When I start working with a new student, the first thing I try to do is get to know them, what they're interested in, what motivates them, and what they want to do next. Once I understand that, I design opportunities that try to fit both the project needs and their own growth goals. For example, if a student is very motivated by publication, I try to take them maybe into classroom study and try to get them to do real observations, collect data. But if a student is like more industrial UX oriented, I try to give them more design focused research questions or quality analysis tasks that they can build a portfolio that really showcase their skills and support their career path. So overall, my goal is to try to ensure that students contribute meaningfully to their own growth path. And the second thing that I try to do is learning by doing, because I believe the best learning happens through doing. Whether it's a class or research project, I try to maximize students' hands-on work. Things like qualitative coding, small programming, data analysis task. I try to get them involved early on to start doing stuff so that they have a sense of what is research through doing this task. And and a big part of my mentoring style is to try to give actionable and encouraging feedback to them. And I always try to break down the steps into smaller steps so that they don't feel, oh, this research project is too overwhelming for me to understand what we are doing, but try to give them a very actionable task to work on. Thirdly is I think collaboration and peer learning is very important when I mentor students, because I think students can learn as much from each other as from their mentors. And I encourage collaboration, especially if it is mutually beneficial for the project. For example, maybe students can code qualitative data together, brainstorm design idea together, or critique prototypes together. But of course, it is sometimes very helpful if we can try to safeguard students' own ownership in the project. So that's another thing to balance and keep in mind. So the last question is future direction and fit, long-term career, and why do I think I'm a strong fit for the role in the research team? So for my future career, I'm very interested in joining academia in the field of AI ed and HCI. Um, so for this particular postdoc position, I'm really interested in understanding the culture of school of education, which is very unique for this postdoc, as it is in European graduate school of education, because I think this will I have internal motivation to understand what is the atmosphere of school of education, because I think it will help me identify which department to focus on for future applications and uh, what their styles are like and where I'm most like to join. And I'm also very strongly motivated to gain experience in grant writing, whether it's large scale funding like NSF, IES, RADO, or small opportunity like tools competition and foundations. I think this is a valuable opportunity to learn from Shi Yan, and which Caroline said is you are very productive, and in a lot of senses, I really want to learn from you and grow in this area. And for the research topic wise, I think AI literacy and physical AI HCI are very highly relevant to my research interest, because I think AI literacy is very important domains, especially in part of AI ed. And I think I have a lot of methodology and relevant AI ed knowledge that I can apply to this domain. Um, Lastly, having collaborated in depth with Shi Yan, I believe we have really had a very strong familiarity with each other's work style and a level of trust as colleagues, which really help us collaborate effectively within the limited time frame of a postdoc. From my experience, I think Shi Yan is a very excellent mentor, and we also share the commonality of being both Asian women in the field of AI at academia. I believe there are a lot of things that I can learn from her, not only about research, but also navigating life as a professor. So I understand that being a new faculty member can come with many competing demands, and I'll be happy to support the lab and Professor Jiang's work in any way I can. I will truly value the opportunity to learn from someone who's ahead of me in many ways, both professionally and personally.